The amber glow of chandeliers bathed the hotel lobby in an opulent warmth, a stark contrast to the biting autumn wind outside. Guests murmured in hushed tones, their laughter and clinking glasses weaving a tapestry of exclusivity. Yet, amidst the polished marble and gilded edges, an air of unease lingered, as though the building itself anticipated a shift in its carefully curated harmony. Keanu Reeves entered quietly, his presence understated yet magnetic. His worn leather jacket and contemplative gaze seemed out of sync with the grandeur around him. To most, he appeared a fleeting anomaly, but his arrival carried a weight that would soon ripple through the lives within these walls. Behind the reception desk stood Amanda, her sharp eyes scanning him with a mix of suspicion and indifference. Her voice, precise and clipped, interrupted the hum of the room. "Sir, this establishment requires reservations. Perhaps you're lost?" Her words, though professional, betrayed an edge of dismissal, as if his very existence disrupted the lobby's pristine aesthetic. Keanu paused, his expression softening rather than hardening. He didn't bristle at her tone, but instead seemed to study her, as though peeling back layers invisible to others. The tension between them became a quiet storm, drawing the attention of nearby guests who watched with a mix of curiosity and discomfort. Unbeknownst to Amanda, this man, who appeared so ordinary, carried the weight of extraordinary loss and resilience. The hotel, a symbol of luxury and detachment, was his creation, a sanctuary meant to embody the values of empathy and connection he'd clung to through life's trials. Yet, here he stood, faced with a moment that tested those very ideals. As the seconds stretched, Keanu's response came, not in defense but in a gentle truth that seemed to echo beyond the room. "Kindness," he said, his voice steady, "isn't reserved for reservations." The words hung in the air, challenging not just Amanda but the very ethos of the space. The boutique hotel, nestled in the heart of the bustling city, exuded opulence and charm. Its grand lobby, adorned with crystal chandeliers and velvet armchairs, was a haven for the elite seeking refuge from their hectic lives. Yet beneath its polished surface, the hotel carried whispers of untold stories, as if the walls themselves bore witness to the lives that passed through. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood and a faint trace of jasmine, creating an atmosphere both inviting and enigmatic. Keanu Reeves, a man whose fame was eclipsed only by his quiet humility, entered unnoticed. His unassuming demeanor belied the weight of his past, a childhood marked by abandonment and a lifetime of grappling with grief. Though he owned the hotel, he often walked its halls as a stranger, observing the world he had built. His motivations were rooted in a desire to create a sanctuary where kindness reigned supreme, a stark contrast to the cold indifference he had once known. Amanda, the receptionist, was a woman hardened by life's disappointments. Her sharp tongue and frosty demeanor masked a deep-seated fear of vulnerability. She had spent years perfecting the art of detachment, believing it to be her armor in a world that often felt unforgiving. Her initial motivation was simple: to maintain order and uphold the exclusivity of the hotel, even if it meant dismissing those who didn't fit her narrow expectations. When their paths crossed, the tension between them was palpable. Amanda's condescending tone clashed with Keanu's quiet resolve, creating a scene that drew the attention of the lobby's patrons. Yet, as Keanu spoke, his words carried a sincerity that disarmed her defenses. In that moment, he wasn't just the hotel's unseen guardian, he became a mirror reflecting the humanity she had long buried. Their interaction, though brief, became a catalyst for change, not just for Amanda but for everyone present. As the night deepened, a chilling revelation emerged. Amanda had been secretly intercepting messages meant for Keanu, fearing his return would unravel her hidden past. The hotel's pristine facade masked a web of betrayal, with Amanda tied to a shadowy figure from Keanu's earlier life. A cryptic letter slipped under his suite door hinted at a buried truth, setting the stage for a confrontation. The boutique hotel buzzed with quiet opulence, its lobby a crossroads of lives. Keanu Reeves, unassuming yet enigmatic, entered unnoticed. His goal was clear: to observe the soul of his creation, a sanctuary he'd built to honor his late love, Jennifer. Yet, his anonymity became his first obstacle. Amanda, the frosty receptionist, dismissed him as an outsider, her sharp words a barrier between him and his mission. Keanu, rather than reacting with indignation, sought understanding. He observed Amanda's guarded demeanor, sensing her own struggles beneath the surface. Their tension drew the attention of the guests, who watched with curiosity as this silent battle unfolded. As the night deepened, Amanda's facade began to crack. Keanu's calm persistence and unexpected empathy forced her to confront her own insecurities. Their interaction became a mirror, reflecting the unseen wounds both carried. The lobby, once a space of polished indifference, transformed into a stage for vulnerability. Unbeknownst to Amanda, Keanu's goal wasn't just to test the hotel's atmosphere but to ensure it remained a place of compassion. By the end of their exchange, a tenuous connection formed, a shared understanding that hinted at deeper subplots yet to unravel. The unseen guest had begun to leave his mark. The grand lobby buzzed with the usual hum of opulence until the gilded chandelier flickered unexpectedly, casting eerie shadows. Guests exchanged puzzled glances, their chatter faltering. Amid the unease, a peculiar figure appeared, a man cloaked in a trench coat, his face obscured by a low hat. He moved with purpose, yet no one recalled seeing him enter. Amanda, the receptionist, stiffened as the man approached. "Sir, may I assist you?" Without a word, he slid an antique key across the desk. Its intricate design bore the hotel's insignia, but it was unlike any key Amanda had ever seen. Before she could question him, he vanished into the crowd. Moments later, the elevator doors opened, though no button had been pressed. A cold draft swept through the room, extinguishing a nearby candle. Whispers spread among the guests, their unease growing palpable. Keanu, observing from a quiet corner, felt a familiar chill. Something was amiss. This wasn't just a malfunction or an eccentric guest. The key, the flickering lights, the unnatural cold, these were signs. He knew he couldn't ignore them. Whatever was happening, it had roots in the hotel's past, and it demanded his attention. The lobby buzzed with murmurs as a man in a tailored navy suit entered, his presence commanding yet understated. He was Victor Langston, a venture capitalist known for his ruthless business acumen. His sharp gaze swept the room, lingering briefly on Keanu before landing on Amanda. "Miss," he said, his tone clipped, "I have a meeting with Mr. Reeves." "Is he here?" Amanda froze, her earlier exchange replaying in her mind. In a shadowed corner, an elderly bellhop named Elias observed the scene. His hands trembled slightly as he polished a brass luggage cart. Elias had worked at the hotel for decades, his quiet demeanor masking a wealth of secrets tied to its history. He had seen the rise and fall of many guests, but tonight felt different. Meanwhile, a young woman in a mustard yellow coat hesitated by the entrance. Her name was Clara, a journalist chasing whispers of a hidden story tied to the hotel. She clutched a worn notebook, her eyes scanning the room for clues. When she spotted Keanu, her breath caught. She recognized him, not as a celebrity, but from a photograph in her research. As Victor approached Keanu, the tension in the room thickened. "You're late," Victor said curtly, his voice cutting through the ambient chatter. Keanu, unbothered, replied, "Some things are worth taking time for." The words hung in the air, loaded with meaning. Elias, unnoticed by most, shuffled closer, his ears pricked. He had overheard countless conversations over the years, but something about this exchange stirred a long-buried memory. His heart raced as he glanced at Clara, who scribbled furiously in her notebook. In the midst of the unfolding drama, the ornate chandelier above the lobby flickered briefly, casting eerie shadows. A chill swept through the room, unnoticed by most, but felt deeply by Elias. He whispered to himself, "The past never stays buried." The air in the lobby grew taut as Amanda's condescension sparked murmurs among the guests. A man in a tailored suit by the fireplace exchanged a knowing glance with a woman clutching a notebook, both clearly intrigued. Behind the concierge desk, a bellhop froze mid-step, his curiosity outweighing his duties. The tension wasn't just palpable, it was magnetic. Keanu's calm demeanor belied the storm brewing within him. He noticed a young boy tugging at his mother's sleeve, whispering something about recognizing the man from the movies. Keanu smiled faintly but said nothing, his focus locked on Amanda, whose professional mask was beginning to crack. Meanwhile, in a shadowed corner, a figure watched intently. It was a private investigator, hired by an unknown party to track Keanu. Scribbling notes furiously, he marveled at how the actor's unassuming presence could command a room. The investigator's subplot deepened, as his employer's motives remained shrouded in secrecy. Amanda faltered, her voice trembling as she attempted to regain control. I didn't mean to offend," she stammered, her earlier confidence unraveling. Keanu's steady gaze softened, but his words carried weight. "We all have our battles, Amanda. But this place, this sanctuary, is meant to heal, not harm." A woman in a crimson dress, seated nearby, suddenly chimed in. "He's right," she said, her voice tinged with emotion. "We all come here to escape something." Her words struck a chord, rippling through the crowd like an unspoken truth. Keanu nodded, silently acknowledging her courage. As Amanda's facade crumbled, revealing years of unspoken struggles, Keanu extended a hand, not as a celebrity, but as a fellow human being. The moment was transformative, weaving together the lives of strangers in the lobby, each grappling with unseen burdens. The unseen guest had become the catalyst for change. The lobby fell silent, the hum of casual chatter replaced by an air thick with tension. Amanda's icy professionalism faltered as Keanu's words resonated, not just with her but with everyone present. The weight of his gaze, steady yet understanding, seemed to pierce through the facade she had carefully constructed over years of guarding herself from the world. A guest observing from the corner, an elderly man with a cane, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as if recognizing something familiar in Keanu. The moment felt charged, as though the room itself held its breath, awaiting an unseen revelation. Keanu's presence was no longer that of an ordinary visitor, it carried an unspoken authority. Amanda's hands trembled as she adjusted her name tag, her voice softening. I didn't mean to," she began, but Keanu raised a hand gently, silencing her apology with a look that spoke volumes. It wasn't forgiveness she needed, it was the courage to face herself. The guests, previously detached in their own worlds, now leaned into the moment, their curiosity piqued. Whispers rippled through the crowd as the elderly man stood, his cane tapping against the marble floor. "You've been here before, haven't you?" Keanu's lips curved into a faint smile, but he didn't answer directly. Instead, he turned to Amanda, his voice calm yet commanding. "This place was built to be more than walls and luxury. It's a refuge, a reminder that every soul carries a story worth hearing." Amanda's expression shifted, her guarded demeanor replaced by a flicker of understanding. The elderly man nodded knowingly, as if a puzzle piece had clicked into place. The lobby, once a space of routine interactions, now felt alive with possibilities, the stage set for a truth long buried to emerge. The lobby's golden chandeliers cast a warm glow, but tension simmered beneath the surface. Amanda, shaken by Keanu's words, avoided his gaze as murmurs rippled through the crowd. A sharply dressed man, Victor, the hotel's ambitious manager, stepped forward, his smile thin and calculating. "Mr. Reeves," he began, his tone laced with insincerity, "perhaps next time you could inform staff of your arrival." "It avoids." Keanu studied Victor, sensing the man's unease. "Misunderstandings reveal truth," he replied calmly, his voice steady. Amanda's trembling hands betrayed her guilt, but Keanu offered her a reassuring nod. Victor's jaw tightened, his authority quietly undermined. Nearby, a young bellboy, Ethan, watched intently. He'd overheard Victor's whispered conversations about cutting corners, exploiting staff, and prioritizing profit over principle. Ethan hesitated, torn between loyalty and conscience. Keanu's unexpected presence seemed like a spark, igniting something long buried within him. As the tension grew, a sudden crash echoed from the dining hall, drawing everyone's attention. A waiter stumbled out, pale and stammering, "There's someone in there. A guest who shouldn't be." The room fell silent, the air thick with unease. Keanu's expression darkened, his instinct sharpening. Victor's mask slipped momentarily, panic flashing in his eyes. "Handle it discreetly," he barked, but Keanu raised a hand. "No," he said firmly, stepping forward. "I'll see for myself." Ethan, emboldened by Keanu's presence, followed without hesitation, leaving Amanda and Victor frozen in place. As Keanu entered the dimly lit dining hall, the shadows seemed to shift unnaturally. A figure sat at the far end, cloaked in mystery. The unseen guest, long whispered about among staff, had finally made their presence known. Keanu's voice cut through the silence. "Why are you here?" The figure's reply was a whisper, yet it carried the weight of revelation, "To remind you of what was lost." The air in the lobby grew heavier as Amanda, shaken by Keanu's words, struggled to reconcile her actions. Behind her polished exterior, years of resentment and self-doubt bubbled to the surface. Keanu, observing her inner turmoil, recognized the weight she carried, a mirror of burdens he once bore. His presence, unassuming yet commanding, disrupted the rhythm of the hotel, forcing its inhabitants to confront their own facades. Across the room, a shadowed figure lingered, unnoticed by most but not by Keanu. This figure, tied to the hotel's darker history, represented a lingering threat, a reminder that not all guests sought refuge in kindness. Keanu's gaze sharpened, his instincts honed by years of navigating unseen dangers. He knew this moment was not just about Amanda but about protecting the sanctuary he had built. Meanwhile, Amanda's vulnerability rippled through the crowd. Guests exchanged uneasy glances, their own pretenses cracking under the weight of the unfolding scene. A businessman, who had dismissed the staff earlier, shifted uncomfortably. A socialite, accustomed to privilege, lowered her gaze. Keanu's words had done more than reach Amanda, they had ignited a quiet reckoning among all present. As the tension mounted, Keanu approached Amanda, his voice steady but urgent. "Sometimes, the hardest kindness is the one we show ourselves," he said, his words cutting through her defenses. Amanda's tears fell freely now, her carefully constructed walls crumbling. Yet, in her vulnerability, she found a spark of hope, a chance to rebuild, not just for herself but for the hotel she had come to represent. The shadowed figure stepped forward, their presence no longer ignorable. Keanu turned to face them, his calm demeanor masking a readiness for confrontation. This was the final thread, the last challenge before the hotel's spirit could truly be restored. As the room held its collective breath, the stage was set for the convergence of past, present, and the unseen forces that bound them all. The lobby fell silent as Keanu's words resonated, their weight undeniable. Amanda, overwhelmed, apologized not only to him but to the room, her icy demeanor melting into something more human. The guests, initially passive observers, began to reflect on their own actions, their own assumptions. Keanu's presence had unearthed something deeper, a collective reckoning with empathy and judgment. A man stepped forward, a regular guest who had always taken the staff for granted. "I owe you all an apology," he admitted, his voice trembling. Others followed, their confessions creating a ripple of accountability. The hotel, once a symbol of exclusivity, began to transform into a space of shared humanity. Keanu, observing the shift, smiled faintly. "This place isn't just walls and luxury. It's the people who breathe life into it, guests, staff, everyone. Let's remember that." His words were a quiet challenge, a call to action for all present to carry this lesson beyond the lobby, into their lives. Amanda, now emboldened, vowed to lead with kindness, her perspective forever changed. The guests departed with more than just memories of opulence, they carried a renewed sense of connection. Keanu, the unseen guest, had left his mark, not through grandeur, but through the quiet power of compassion. In the days that followed, the lobby seemed to hum with a renewed energy, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the lesson of that fateful evening. Amanda, once guarded and distant, began greeting guests with a warmth that surprised even her. Her transformation became a quiet testament to the ripple effect of a single act of understanding. Keanu, ever the enigma, continued to walk among his guests unnoticed, his presence a silent reminder that true leadership is rooted in humility. Though he owned the hotel, he chose to remain its unseen guardian, ensuring its spirit of inclusivity endured. His actions spoke louder than any title ever could. For the guests who had witnessed the moment, it became a story they carried with them, a tale of kindness triumphing over judgment. Many found themselves inspired to reflect on their own lives, questioning how often they overlooked the humanity in others. Let this story be a call to action, to pause, to listen, and to lead with compassion in a world that often forgets its value. For in the end, it is not wealth or status that defines us, but the way we treat those who cross our path. The hotel, now a sanctuary not just for luxury but for humanity, stood as a beacon of this truth.